I would love to welcome Hervé Le Fou, CPO of Heinken, again on stage, and talk a bit about the secret diary.
So Hervé Le Fou, and I'm the pleasure to lead the procurement team in Heineken. And then I was very pleased to be invited by Atish to share a little bit the journey of what we've done through our partnership of the last 6-7 years. And I'm sure you know Heineken quite a lot already, but quick slide to present it. We are a 30 billion euro revenue company. In procurement, we manage something like 18 billion euro with a team of 1,000. We are on 80 markets. We have 300 brands. And you see over there, we have 10 to 15 global brands. You recognize the Heineken and the two sisters, Heineken 00 without any alcohol, and the newly launched Heineken Silver. You recognize Desperados, who's with tequila, who's been launched in France, but is now a global brand. Birra Moretti in Italy, Cruzcampo here in Spain, Sol, Strongbow, we are also the #1 in cider. Lagunitas, a California beer, who's now completely global. Savannah, who is in South Africa. Amstel, of course. Ishnusa, who was created in Sardinia. We have a small brewery over there. It's now a global brand. So, 10 to 15 global brands with 300 local brands everywhere. We are the #2 biggest brewer. Our biggest competitor is 2 times bigger. The third one is 2 times smaller. And then we are the most widespread brewer around the world. And if you look at our turnover, almost 35% is done in our home ground in Europe. We're based in Amsterdam, of course. And then 35% also in North and South America, 15% in Africa, and 15% in Asia. And if I take the biggest OpCos, we say a business unit, operational companies, you take Mexico, Brazil, #1 and #2, and if you add Nigeria, South Africa, where we recently acquired Distel, a big wine business, and then you take India, which we also acquired recently. We had a minority JV, we now have a majority JV, and you take Vietnam, and in 6 Western Europe countries, you have almost 60% of the turnover of the group. And one thing which is, and 250 million hectoliter. It's a strange unit, hectoliter. What is it? It's the original, volume that was put into a wooden barrel when Freddy Heineken in 1864 started. So that's what a hectoliter is. And just to give you an example, 250 million hectoliter, that's the equivalent of filling the Wembley Stadium full of beer up to the rooftop. And we produce 10 of this around the world every year. So that's Heineken. The important thing also to realize here is that Heineken is one of the very few multinational companies who still has a decentralized model. And as such, because here we talk about tech, this makes the implementation of systems much more difficult than in centralized companies. So the road so far, in 2017, when I started on a CPO role, it was kind of, I would say, a middle age, right? I had a lot of people queuing behind my office every week, the long queue of people wanting to sign contract manually with sometimes, 60 pages on the contract. Contracts were hidden in a drawer, etc. So we had a case for change, and we started to, in 2018, go into the market in search of how we could professionalize the source-to-contract solutions. And we make a tender, and then we selected Zycus, and this is how our nice partnership, Atish, started from that time with Ruth Bromley. A lot of you know her because she's been a very strong advocate to other companies on Zycus. And our choice for Zycus, we didn't want to select, for example, Ariba, who for us was too big of a Rolls-Royce, too complex, too, let's say, rigid. And our primary goal to select a partner was adaptability, simple, robust, people really adopting the system, but with a potential for development through high tech in the future. And this is why we selected Zycus. And then 3 years after, after implementing the source-to-contract suite throughout the 70 opcos, and I'm proud to say that my team was the first one in Heineken to implement the same system throughout 80 opcos in a decentralized model. Some of you certainly understand how difficult it is when you have 70 or 80 now business unit managers or managing directors really having an opinion about a system and wanted it customized to their own business. So we went for a full same system throughout the company on source to contract, and that was quite a success at the time. 3 years after, we decided to go to the P2P suite, and this is where we are at the moment in time. But already, we are already thinking about the long-term future. You always need to think, 10 years ahead. And we're very happy that with Atish and the Zycus team, we have found a partner who is thinking also about the long term. And GenAI, we really believe in that. And where we are today, all our opcos are in source to contract. We are halfway through the river on P2P. And then we have some very robust fundamentals now and a platform where we have been able over the last 8 years to really step in terms of performance, value, etc., strong of fundamentals who are really strong now. So, that's, I'm not going to spend too much time on that slide, but a little bit what I was saying is I remember, that long queuing line behind my office where people were asking me to sign contracts, and this needed to stop because that was just not sustainable. Yeah. So the user experience before Zycus was just not there, and Zycus has really changed our life. The moment we put that in place was also a moment where I launched in the company a 1 billion euro cost-saving program, 1 billion euro cash-saving program. This type of large-scale program, I could never have done that without having strong fundamentals, and we did that in parallel. And you can see, 12 to 16 months after, everything was in order. 90,000 contracts were documented. We have 30,000 suppliers, right, in Heineken, and this needed to be super structured. We started e-auctions, e-sourcing events, 1,000 e-auctions. I remember 1 billion euros spent were under e-auctions, delivering double-digit savings. Suddenly that massively delivered value for the company in terms of cost cash. And then a very strong global adoption. Right, from an audit proof, that was super, super strong. The fundamentals, we started to have that in order. We have monthly reporting on fundamentals on all the 70, 80 opcos. And I am, a CPO who's always putting a lot of emphasis on keeping the fundamentals right. We are ranking in our opcos, and every month I am rewarding and thanking, congratulating the top 10 opcos who have the highest score in the fundamentals. I think it's critical. I always tell them that the number one reason why CPOs are fired is because of weak fundamentals, right? So, the user experience was much better, which meant that the teams could spend their time on much more value-added tasks, of course, right? So where we are today on source to contract, all our opcos are since long under, at 100% there using the Zycus modules and suite. Here on source to contract, the challenges we have is to keep relevant, to be on top of, the latest development, because you could have some, modules from competition outperforming the Zycus module. And this is why we are really working hand in hand with Zycus to keep being relevant, keep being at the forefront, because we believe it's super important to keep an integrity on the entire source to contract model. On purchase to pay, which we are at the moment in time halfway through the river, we are roughly at 32 opcos out of 80. We are lead customer. We have decided to take the challenge with Zycus to develop that modules all together. So it's really a partnership. Of course, here the challenges we have is, it's like every new system. It has some fixings to do, so we are having focus group. We look at what needs to be improved, and then we try to perform and increase the user experience and the NPS score. But it's quite exciting modules to play in because it leads us into efficiency, effectiveness, and even change of business model in the future. So we believe, having an entire suite with one partner, source to contract and purchase to pay, is important because we want to have as little system as possible. We want to be as integrated as possible. And we believe that the strength of the partnership is important to, as lead customer, make sure that everything is going to be top-notch and lead us to high performance. I think it's important also to show that a very big multinational company like Heineken can have an end-to-end suite because, of course, every other customers can benefit from the development that we are doing together. So, yesterday night we interacted with all of you, which are the main customers, and we understand how it's going in each one of our companies, and joining forces to make sure that Zycus is winning on the market is vital for us, and this is how a partnership should be, right? And then we're thinking about end-to-end and AI, and therefore very pleased to see that Zycus, unlike some other competitors of Zycus, are really passionate about Gen AI and constantly looking at 10 years in advance, because this, we believe, is really going to revolutionize the way a procurement team works, right? So, a couple of learnings out of all that. The first one is, don't underestimate change management. There's a lot of work to be in the preparation phase before you launch that in an OpCo to get people ready, to get data ready. There's a lot of work during the launch, and there's a lot of work after the launch. And we've gone from, at the beginning, OpCo by OpCo or cluster OpCo by cluster OpCo, thinking that when the launch was going to be successful, then we could really focus on the next ones. But in fact, it's not true, right? You always have a fine-tuning to do for a couple of months, a couple of years with the OpCos you found, the business unit you have launched. And the quality of change management is critical to make it a success. Don't sell the dream. And for that, we were very clear that we wanted the system to be chosen by the teams. So when we did an RFP and selected Zycus, we invited all the competitors of Zycus into our offices, and we selected, focus groups within our teams to try to put their hands into the systems of all the competitors of Zycus. And at the end, we asked them, which one do you want? Based on what criteria, right? So we really made it chosen from within and not from a top-down perspective, because we believe, adoption rate was the most important KPI for us to succeed. So don't sell the dream. Be very clear once you've selected, what the partner, the system can do, cannot do. It's very clear. I'm not saying anything nobody knows, but it's very rare to have a partner where the full end-to-end suite is top-notch. A lot of companies are going for best of breeds, right? And therefore, if you decide to go for one partner, you need to be very clear to your organization what are their best-in-class are and what are they still lagging and trying to develop further, right? So transparency is key for people to get adoption. For sure. And keep your eyes on the prize. You cannot believe, how much pressure I do have from the top, my bosses, to ask me, okay, Hervé, you spend quite a lot of money on implementing a system. It's the backbone of procurement. What's the return of that investment? And how can you reorganize your organization differently to keep adding value to the company above and beyond just having the fundamentals right? So keep your eyes on the price, constantly look at speed, efficiency, effectiveness, change of capabilities to constantly reorganize your team towards the future, strong of the fundamentals that the systems do, and also the value add that the systems do, right? So I think 3 learnings from myself there. So a little bit of how Heineken is organized or structured from a digital and technology perspective. And want to share with you that we are, we have embarked into a massive digital transformation in Heineken. It's a full mobilization. We have a D&T chief officer at the board. And then we are working on SAP HANA, so a digital core, which we want to be as small as possible, but where we plug business platform for each one of the functions, right? And then, procurement business platform is Zycus, of course, and it comes together with a number of satellites, like Condex for the tail end management, Mercateo for Amazon-like type of platform to manage indirects. And that ecosystem is super important for us to play in that second circle of business platform. And then on top of that business platform, in the future, we want to plug some app stores, apps coming from suppliers, apps developed inside, that gives us much more insight and decisions power. I always say we have too many systems, we don't have enough insights. And I'm after insights to trigger the best decisions and add value to the company, and not to pile up systems. And then the Gen AI, overlay, we look at, like Atish was saying, is not only into your proprietary, data of your functions, but we look at all the data of the company, of course, and also the data outside the company. And this is where the power of Gen AI can really maximize the value. And so at the moment in time, we're a bit in the middle of the transition here. Everybody's busy building their business platform, fine-tuning them, making them relevant for the company as much as possible. And everybody is super excited about the third phase, which is going to come soon, where we intend to continue partnering with Zycus to try to play in the Gen AI space. When we look at Gen AI in Heineken, there are a couple of things we're thinking about, right? First is, we talked about it, virtual agents and autonomous negotiations. So let me negotiate that for you. We talked about the ANA launch on the tail end spend, but also, we are thinking, and that was one of the questions you asked on strategic sourcing. We're also thinking about, for example, things like should cost modeling, driven by Gen AI, or a Gen AI agent for the main strategic sourcing, directors on the very big categories to try to help them negotiate better what they have to negotiate. Process compliance, that could be the intake management, right? So how do you have all these purchase requisitions being driven naturally into the right challenge, and then drive discipline through a process, automation by design, and not have to educate everybody in the company. Reporting intelligence, let me find that for you. I mean, what's the spend of my competitor on that category? What's the turnover, what's the COGS per hectoliter of all my competitors, because I want to go for benchmark activity and I want to understand that. What should I understand for my contacts, when I have a contract of 100 pages, right? That's the reporting intelligence. Document interpretation, let me explain it to you. That's what I just explained also. Summarizing very big contracts, understanding whether they are performant, whether they are weak, and what I should understand out of them. Creative is, for example, when we do an ad, where we needed to go for, a marketing brief, and then a creative agency, and then production agency, and then 3 months after we would come up with the picture for the latest beer on the innovation. But Gen AI, in 3 minutes, you just ask the question and can produce the picture that you want, right? Which makes complete companies, departments become obsolete or work completely differently in the future. And then coding, let me build that for you, API or connectivity of data through different systems to bring you the insights you want, is also an area of exploration. So this is a bit how we in Heineken think about how we intend to use Gen AI. We're still in exploration mode, right? We haven't done practically any use cases. We've looked at multiple use cases, something like 50 use cases. We selected a few. And then we have the intentions to invest into this, to have the first early outputs in 2025. And we're looking at Atish and his team to look at whether we can partner on a certain number of them, right? So the next frontier for procurement, this is where Merlin, GenAI, and Zycus could help us, is basically on intake management and autonomous negotiation agent, which we just explained this morning, right? These are for us the top two things that we believe are going to make a difference. Yeah? And then the future of procurement will, with GenAI, it will change a lot, right? It will change the way we react, how we buy, how we see, how we work, who we are, what we think. And, this really, I'm looking at GenAI in terms of a capability shift, right? I really think that in 3 years, 5 years' time, my procurement organization will look completely different in terms of capacity, capabilities, what they will do. We have so many other things that add value for the company: agility, resilience, the ESG agenda, the technology transformation, the end-to-end value chain optimization. We are almost everywhere now. Procurement is at the center of the stage in a multinational company, adding much more value. And then you need to think about how your organization is going to evolve in the future from a capability shift perspective. And GenAI, will require new talents and new expertise and a different way of doing procurement and adding value to the company than it is existing today. And that's why, leading a procurement organization is so exciting nowadays, because it's going to be a passionate agenda for the future, for sure. Something exponentially that we've never seen before. We've never lived over the last 10 years in terms of magnitude. And this is how I'm going to stop my presentation. I hope you enjoyed me sharing the journey of Heineken over the last 6 to 8 years. You see, there's been ups and downs. It's normal, but we keep being persistent. We keep believing in the strength of the partnership of the partners working hand in hand together in the good time and in the bad time, so that we can emerge into leading edge in terms of multinational companies, stay relevant, be the best, because the world out there is super highly competitive, and there's nothing better than tech to enable you to beat competition and to continue to be a relevant brand on the market throughout the world. And I just want to finish thanking Atish and the team for all the effort and a very strong partnership that we've been living in together. And I'm sure, certain it will stay like that. And I can't wait to live the future with you guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Herbie.
On time or?
On time. And this is really, thank you, I think, for this presentation, for the partnership, and really this passionate presentation. These insights, in a secret diary. But I think it's a lot of learning we can get out of this. So I think encourage having the later discussion it.
One question regarding ESG and maybe your view on now the coming EU regulations and the intersection of system support, Gen AI. What do you see here coming in the pipeline on the needs for you as a company?
Sure. So on ESG, what I see is two needs. The first is the carbon reporting, right? And second is the legislation, CSRD, CS3D, data capture, and action planning after that. I think for me, from a data perspective, from a tech perspective, they are the two things that are most important. In Heineken, I think, we're one of the very few multinational companies which is able to synchronize the financial and the non-financial reporting. And because enabled by the fact that our supplier base is highly consolidated in rolls and packs. Just to give you an example, rolls and packs is 60% of the carbon footprint of the company. And with 40 strategic suppliers, you have 40% of that footprint. So that very early, we've partnered with strategic suppliers to capture the data, volume-based, right? And at good receipt level, so that we are really impacting the fiscal year to automate put the data in the data lake, and then issue a carbon reporting. So we're doing that. If there's a system through Zycus that can professionalize that, we're more than happy. But I think our biggest priority or concern, I would say, is more CSRD, CS3D, because when you have 30,000 suppliers and tier 2, tier 3, millions of suppliers, and we are accountable from a legal perspective to report all the 60-ish KPIs that we have to, and when we find a red one, we are legally accountable. That makes us a little bit nervous, and we haven't found the systems yet to do that. And then time flies, because January 2025 is the time when we need to start reporting. So we're a bit under pressure cooker there, right? So that would be the two areas where I would see, on the sustainability perspective, what is required from a data and tech perspective.
Thank you once more.
Thank you, thank you.